This right here is the Q20 Mini by PowKiddy, relative newcomer to this portable emulation solution niche. There's no consensus on how to pronounce this word. No matter which one I go with, some people are going to say I'm saying it wrong, so there's both for you. This guy is very small, very affordable, like I said, about 40 bucks. Plays all the systems you would expect from a system like this, but as always, the all-important question, is it worth it? And you know me, I don't like to waste your time, and I'll say yes. There are some caveats, there are some things I wish I did differently, but yes, for the price and how portable it is, it's worth it. But let's have a closer look. First, as always, we gotta go over the physical attributes of the device. It's about the size of a Game Boy Micro, as you can see, about the same dimensions. And it's too bad I don't know where the faceplate is, but this Famicom look, it's exactly the one that came with my Game Boy Micro when I bought it originally. That's why this one is the red one. It has a bit of a red, dark red trim, because it has a faceplate that looks just like this. About the same dimensions. The screen is a little bit bigger. We're gonna get into that. But again, going back to the body of the device, it's quite light. If anything, it's too light, almost implying cheapness. But I mean, I like it. Up on the top here, you have the shoulder buttons, which, you know, I have something to say about these, but we'll get to that. A headphone jack, a micro SD card slot, volume slider. I like it when these things have physical volume sliders, and the USB-C charging port. Going back to what I said about the volume wheel, I like it when devices have a physical wheel that I can spin to alter the volume, because oftentimes these devices rely on a combination of a function key and then face buttons here, and when you go like me, sometimes I get obsessed with these devices and I play with them constantly, but then for like weeks on end, they're just in my drawer as I'm playing with something else. When I go back to a certain device, it's easy for me to forget what are the shortcuts to increase, say, brightness or volume. I like it when there's a physical slider here to adjust these things, in this case, the volume. So at the front here, you have start and select. You have two buttons here at the top that I'm going to cover more because they are contextual buttons. Perhaps that's why they weren't labeled, because they're not like, you know, your face buttons or your D-pad or your start and select that does the same thing every time you press it. They depend on the emulator you use. We're gonna get into that. At the bottom here, nothing much on the side, other than the on-off switch. At the back here, also pretty flat and nondescript. I like that, with the exception of these screwdriver holes here that are not covered. You can see right through them. Makes it easier to access it if you have to disassemble it or fix it. That's something that apparently PowKiddy is kind of like their staple. They don't really cover these holes. It's not a huge deal. I rather like this color scheme, orange with the gold trim. Like I said, very reminiscent of the Famicom controller. It's an obvious inspiration. Some earlier production models, I noticed, seeing pictures and videos, this trim here, I assume this is some kind of adhesive plate that was stuck to the top of the console, the front of the console rather. It lines up very well. I noticed that some earlier devices, I guess earlier into the production run, they were a little misaligned. The holes here on the speaker grill didn't line up properly. Not the case with my unit, and it doesn't seem to be the case anymore, but I figured I should throw that out there. So let's turn this on. When you turn it on, you'll see a very familiar face, which is OpenDingux, or at least it used to be called OpenDingux early into its development cycle. That's what I installed. Let's see if I have it here. I think I've showed you this before. Back in my, where is it? This guy right here, my Dingo A320. In fact, they have almost the exact same dimensions. This is the first device that I installed that operating system on. It's way more robust than the built-in operating system. It runs more emulators and it runs them better. So all of these devices have been using this operating system for a little while now. Anyway, let's go into the system here. So when you first boot up the system, you're greeted by the familiar OpenDingux interface. You have all the systems that this thing will emulate. So Game Boy, Game Boy Color, GBA, Famicom or SNES, SFSC, Super Famicom, SNES. You have the Game Gear, you have the Master System, which isn't very popular in North America, but it was huge back in Brazil. Mega Drive or Sega Genesis, you got the Neo Geo Pocket, the WonderSwan, the PC Engine, arcade games, which is the part that I seldom play on these things. You have CPS, Neo Geo, and MAME for all. Now, usually, myself, personally, when I buy these devices, I stick with Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, a little bit of Super Nintendo. That's the things that I played the most. And that's where these systems excel, really. So, let's go into the Game Boy here. So, I'm gonna boot up, let's see, a classic Super Mario Land. it works really well. The screen is IPS, so it has really decent viewing angles. There is a little bit of screen tearing when there's a lot of horizontal motion. Oh, right there. I'm not seeing a whole bunch. Actually, where's the volume? I think I turned it all the way down. Let's crank it up a bit. I'm not hearing any volume. Let's go into the settings here. Is there anything wrong with the volume settings? Options. Find it peculiar that there's no sound on this thing. I wonder if I pressed anything. Oh, I know. You know what? I think I know what I did. Let's go back to the game, return to game. I think, like I was saying before, that's the shortcut for volume control. So as I was saying before, these devices usually employ shortcuts to control brightness and volume. Though this thing has a volume wheel here, you can also change the volume by holding select and pressing either A or B. So A will increase the volume, B will lower the volume. And then you can also control the master volume here. So there you go. Now, before I got this device, I saw a lot of reports of screen tearing, and I was actually expecting it to be more distracting. It's not that bad. I can see a little bit, and I'm sure you can tell there from the video as well, but it's nowhere near as bad as, say, the Pocket Go. This one has much more noticeable screen tearing, and it's one of the few devices that I actually troubled myself to install. Oh my god, that was a terrible death. With the Pocket Go, the screen tearing was so noticeable that I actually wanted to go ahead and install the custom firmware that would fix that. And usually when I get these devices, I don't really care so much about installing custom firmware to improve the experience. I believe in trying these things and using them right out of the box. Most people who buy these things, they're not really tech savvy in my experience, based on the emails and the comments that I get. These are people who just want to relive their childhood games, and they just want to buy something, get it out of the box, and play right away. If they come with ROMs already pre-installed, which is the case with this guy, it's all the better for these people. So something like the Pocket Go, it has far more noticeable screen tearing. Let's see. Oh, okay, that sucked. Okay, I'm gonna save this here because I never like to leave a game behind without, Okay, it's saved, and let's quit here. Let's go back to the beginning. There you go. Now, this is something that you'll find in all of these Chinese emulation devices. The confirm button constantly goes back and forth between B and A. It's very confusing, but you'll get the hang of it. So like on this screen here, for instance, if I want to go into, say, GBA, it's, I think, B to go. No, it's A. But then to select the game, let's see if it's A. I think it's A again. Yes, it's A again. But then in the games, often B is your confirm button. So you're going back and forth, and I get that. It's just a little quirk of these things. So yeah, like for something like Pokemon, this is really, really decent. It captures the experience of playing on original hardware because it's so nice and light and portable. It's definitely a way better way, in my opinion, than finding an original GBA to play this, because with the original GBA, you don't have backlight. Let's turn this down a bit. If you want that, you're gonna have to look for a modded one or do it yourself. A lot of these people, like I said, are not super tech savvy, the people in the market for something like this. I like to be able to recommend something that they'll be able to get out of the box and it'll work just fine, and ideally with games already pre-installed, so I don't have as much hassle. This runs really well, and I find that for GBA games, devices like this is where it excels. It comes real close, a very close approximation to playing on original hardware, and the Famicom aesthetics really drive home the feeling that you're playing on original hardware. I'm not sure if anybody else gets that idea, but I like this. The screen is the right size, and again, IPS panel, great viewing angles no matter how you hold it. This is not going to come across really well on the video, but trust me, this is really good. These screens have come a long way. The aforementioned, where is it? Where did I put that thing? The Dingo A320, that had an infamously terrible screen. That was the worst thing about the system, and I like that these things are now much more usable. One thing I like about this, more than I like about some of the other devices I've tried in this category, is that this button here is a dedicated suspend button. It puts your system to sleep. I mentioned earlier that I'd have to talk about the triggers, and I gotta say, this is my least favorite part of the experience, playing with the Q20 Mini. Let me boot up let's go classic Super Mario World. Can't go wrong with that. And again, I'm not sure if that comes across really well on the screen, but The screen is very sharp. However, you can tell there that, you know, that background there, that sky is not supposed to be black, it's supposed to be blue, and that's because the bundled emulator for Super Nintendo games doesn't properly show all the layers in a game, sometimes depending on the game. It's more visible here in Super Mario World. Doesn't happen to all the games I tried, but this is one example I wanted to show you. And like I mentioned, there is a way to fix this. It involves installing custom firmware on the device. It's not that complicated, and there are so many tutorials on how to do this. I just don't have the patience to do something like that. I like a device that works perfectly right out of the box. So for Super Nintendo emulation, this is something you have to keep in mind. If you want to play it on this device, however nifty it is, you got to keep in mind that, you know, you're going to run into this little issue. One thing I really like about the Q20 Mini is that there's a dedicated suspend button there. So you press that button and it goes into sleep. Then you press it, it comes back on. It doesn't work from the games, unfortunately. In the games, this will be the contextual menu button, and this button doesn't seem to do anything as far as I can tell. I've tried in every game, in every emulator, and nothing really happens. But anyway, I like that there's a suspend button. A lot of the problems I have with these devices, I mentioned this in other reviews, is that a lot of them don't have a dedicated suspend button, so you have to turn it off and on every time you finish playing a game. I would have preferred if they had a suspend button that works from within games. That would be perfect for me. Unfortunately, not the case. But yeah, for 40 bucks, the PowKiddy Q20 Mini works really well. I like the form factor. I'm not a huge fan of the triggers. I gotta say, this is really the only thing I don't like about the triggers. They're really off to the extremities. I would have preferred if they were perhaps a little bit longer this way, so my finger could more comfortably rest on them. The way it is, I have to hold my grip kind of like this. I suppose I could use the middle of your fingers here to activate the triggers, but something about this doesn't seem quite natural to me. Perhaps because I haven't spent enough time with the system yet to get used to this. Of course, if you're playing, you know, your turn-based games and your RPGs and stuff like that, that won't matter as much. But for fast-paced games, if you're playing like a fighting game that you need to access these a lot, this could be a problem. Also, speaking about the buttons, they're very clicky. I like them a lot. The D-pad is very good. These have come a long way. I gotta say, older devices, older Chinese emulation devices, the buttons were a little mushy. They didn't have enough travel. Sometimes there's some trouble even realizing that a command was registered. But no, this is really, really good. Sonic Advance, I gotta say, is probably the best game to show screen tearing because there's so much fast side-scrolling motion here. And from what I can tell, of course I'm pressing the wrong button. This is jump, this is your dash. This is something I might remap in the future. This feels a little awkward to me. So this is, yeah, this is your spin. Y does nothing. Spin and jump, yeah, okay. It's, I prefer the Super Nintendo style. There's a stupid spring there and it's pissing me off. There we go. I'm not noticing a lot of screen tearing at all, to be honest. It's actually, like I said, I think the screen tearing reports have been a little overstated for this device in some of the reviews I've seen before I got mine. It looks, like I said, perhaps because I've tried so many other devices that had this problem in a more obvious way, this seems just fine to me. Anyway, this is the PowKiddy Q20 Mini. I'm gonna leave a link in the description of where you can get your own. For 40 bucks, I love the form factor, I love the screen, I love the buttons. Not a huge fan of the shoulder buttons, but very rarely do these devices have shoulder buttons that I would say are great, so I guess that comes with the territory. If there's any other such devices that you'd like to see featured here on the channel, let me know. I'm always on the lookout for new stuff. If you have any more questions about this thing, hit me up on either the comments or on social media. I'm very active over there, both on Twitter and Instagram, so make sure to check those out. And that's all the time I have for today. I'm Izzy, and I'm done.